Vladimir Putin, Part 4. We now turn to a different aspect of Vladimir Putin's behavior, and that concerns issues of money, wealth, greed, but also taste and status. Hitherto, a particular foundation released The Secret of Putin's Valdai Dacha, a Russian term that roughly means vacation home, which detailed an official but closely guarded and previously unseen lakeside residence in the Valdai Hills, approximately halfway between Moscow and St. Petersburg. Putin's state apparatus reacted on April the 27th by labelling the foundation an illegal extremist group. Assertion of control, denial, absence of emotional empathy. As A Palace for Putin begins, it's declared to be a psychological portrait of Putin, who is written off as a madman obsessed with wealth and luxury. Is such a description of him accurate? Is he a madman? Well, the relevant author of that particular creation believes it to be the case. I do not see him as a madman. Does he own an obsession with wealth and luxury? That quite possibly is accurate, and we shall see. The author of A Palace for Putin parallels Putin's almost 20-year rule over Russia with the slapdash management of the facility itself, snuffing out Putin's carefully crafted image at home as a competent technocrat and abroad as a fearsome mastermind. This brings to mind two aspects. First of all, is this author correct, and is it the case that Putin carefully constructs an image that at home he's a competent technocrat, and so he's seen abroad as some kind of fearsome mastermind, but he's neither of those things, and he's just able to create the impression that he is? Might that be a form of unconscious facade management, commensurate, say, with an upper mid-range narcissist operating that facade of superiority? Or is it the case that the author is incorrect, and he is actually a competent technocrat and a fearsome mastermind, but also looks to cultivate that image also, and in the circumstances, would that support awareness instead? It's described that beneath this facade, both A Palace for Putin and the Dacha expose reveal not a charismatic leader, but a reasonably devious, thoroughly thuggish, and incredibly lucky criminal far out over his skis. The suggestion there of a devious mind supports that there is a degree of an awareness with regard to the behaviours. Thuggishness supports a more rudimentary approach, and it's something that we've seen in earlier suggestions. For instance, the brazen behaviours that have been exhibited with regard to the misappropriation of assets. Is it simply the case that he doesn't realise what he's doing and he engages in those obvious behaviours? Or is it the case that he is well aware and he's just suitably arrogant and dismissive and haughty that he just does it anyway, knowing that everybody fears him and won't do anything against him? Various details regarding the Black Sea Palace and nearby Putin-owned properties have made Russia's dictator the subject of laughter. Some guffawed at an $850 toilet brush and a nearly $1,300 toilet paper holder. If, of course, those purchases are accurate, that suggests that there is a degree of crassness about such purchases, a flaunting of wealth, and, of course, a disregard for many of his country's citizens who could not afford anything near such a level of expenditure. Others mocked the presence of a prized aqua discotheque, a fountain-like device that pours water to produce a selected tune, located in one of the palace's bars, now the subject of a satirical rap by Russian performer TMNV, who pleads, "Vova, take me out to the aqua discotheque, put some shit in the hookah, we're going to bug Navalny. Vova is an informal Russian shortening of Vladimir, akin to an English speaker calling a William Baba. The prized aqua discotheque again suggests outlandish wealth, which is being flaunted, but suggests also an absence of class. What might we determine from that? It's often the case that such garish examples of wealth are seen amongst the upper lessers of the narcissists, so you may wish to make a note as you formulate your own view as to what it is. The hookah, as it appears, is real. In addition to 3 dedicated bars and 2 wine-tasting rooms, Putin's palace apparently possesses a specialised hookah lounge, equipped with ample seating, at the centre of which lies a stage with a dancing pole. Nor is the Valdai Dacha without absurd features, such as a Vladimirskaya church, named after its eponymous owner, a miniature casino, and a massive spa complex. The complex is especially visible, containing just about every cosmetic facility short of plastic surgery. Once again suggests vanity, including a dental office. Most amusing of these is a full-body cryogenic chamber, a pseudo-scientific fantasy used by individuals with more money than sense to supposedly rejuvenate their skin by subjecting it to temperatures far below freezing. Might this be magical thinking and more vanity? Also grandiosity. Presumably, Putin finds actually going shirtless outside in hypothermic temperatures to be insufficiently chic. After freezing himself in a vain quest for eternal youth, magical thinking, he has the option to visit a Thai massage parlour, whose full canopy bed suggests massages may be merely one of the services offered. Once he is satiated from that particular leisure, there are 2 spacious restaurant buildings to provide his supper, one of which is devoted entirely to beer. Grandiosity, flagrant showing of wealth, sense of entitlement. The Titanic Palace comes off as a split-the-baby compromise between the opulence of the Tsar's palaces and the raunchiness of a gangster paradise. These crassly hedonistic facilities coexist alongside a stage theatre, with a 2-storey auditorium, reading room, though no library, and vast gardens. These are token offerings to the persistent Russian notion that leaders, however brutal their origins, have to be cultured. Nekelturny, uncultured, cuts in Russian in a way that has little equivalent in English. Not only does Russian respect for arts run deep, but so does the fear of being seen by others as a peasant. Soviet leaders were fierce autodidacts. The architecture and decorations produce a textbook example of what writer Peter York terms dictator chic, a style characterized by ludicrously overscaled dimensions, extremely excessive use of gold, glass and marble, ubiquitous rococo furniture, and frequent depictions of macho creatures, whether lions, eagles, or wolves. All of this supports grandiosity, magical thinking, sense of entitlement, showmanship, vanity. Golden 2-headed eagles of dubious craftsmanship festoon much of the interior, and an inferior knockoff of the gold eagle atop the iconic and elaborate Winter Palace gates adorns the far less elaborate but similarly massive front gate of the structure. Gold, glass and marble adorn nearly every room, as does furniture from Italian firms whose products are both flamboyant and outrageously expensive. A single couch and its dressing table together cost more than $54,000. Showmanship, vanity, grandiosity, lack of emotional empathy for those who are in poverty in his own country. The Valdai Dacha places most of the dictator chic in a single gaudy location, a Chinese-style pavilion constructed out of marble with a golden roof. Its crudely and excessively gilded interior is outfitted with a circular table ideal for social drinking. The chairs, with comically oversized seats and comparatively undersized backs, are caricatures of Ming dynasty design. Although previous royal palaces have often been centres of culture and politics at which members of the elite mingled, Putin's reclusive palace is a massively oversized playground for one. Loner. Sense of entitlement. The colossal estate it sits on is guarded closely by the Federal Security Service, boats must maintain a 2-mile distance from the shore, and a large no-fly zone exists above the abode, nullification of threats to control. Its location on the Black Sea coast is far from the seat of government in Moscow, making this imitation of the Winter Palace and Versailles remarkably unsuited for holding court. Although the Romanovs and Bourbons used their palaces for vast festivities, where much of the ruling class was invited, Putin's similarly colossal edifice is only to be enjoyed by himself and a few close associates. Triangulation by omission. Loner. Sense of entitlement. Lack of accountability. Nor does this location serve well for Putin's family gatherings, despite having 2 known grandchildren, both under the age of 10, and being suspected of having recently fathered 2 more children out of wedlock. More on his family relations later. No quarters or entertainment facilities for children have been identified within the palace. Lack of emotional empathy, sense of entitlement, lack of accountability. Located between a casino and a game room, equipped with, among other attractions, several slot machines, is a room dedicated to a set of electric toy cars and a track to race them. But the toys are displayed far above the floor in protective cabinets, and the track is on a table too high for young children to use. Incongruous reaction, sense of entitlement, lack of emotional empathy. The Valdai Dacha, at least, has a massively oversized playground, albeit one that oddly coexists with facilities for gambling, drinking and massage therapy. Both the palace and the dacha, furthermore, have extensive sports facilities, including an underground ice hockey rink apiece. If Putin's recent match against some of Russia's top hockey players is any guide, his guests are expected to play as incompetently as necessary to let him win. Competitiveness, showmanship, assertion of control. The purpose of the palace, however, is much clearer than that of the dacha. Far from governmental duties, removed from the responsibilities of family, and loaded with at least 6 distinct places to get wasted, this is not the abode of a confident ruler, but the lair of an overgrown man-child, as this article suggests. In a house with more than 3 times the floor area of the White House, on a vast estate more than 86 times the area of Camp David, competitiveness, showmanship, Putin is free to indulge his heart's desires as his country crumbles around him, impoverished by the sheer rapaciousness and incompetence of its presidents and its accomplices. Lack of emotional empathy, sense of entitlement, lack of accountability. Now, of course, this description of this Valdai Dacha has been provided in tones of disapproval from the relevant author. But leaving aside the tone of disapproval, the description of the interior is instructive with regard to the mindset of Vladimir Putin. He has acquired vast wealth and thus spends it, as is described in the dictator chic, absencing a nature that demonstrates perhaps a cultured approach to it, but rather flagrant and blatant displays of wealth. But for who? Very few, it would appear, actually ever see it, and instead this all appears to be part of an extension of an empire in his mind, that it's for himself. And whilst there will be those that do visit and will be triangulated with its sheer opulence, the manner in which it's been created supports more of a bolt hole, albeit an extremely expensive and massive one, which is, of course, part of what is seen in the narcissistic dynamic. If you want to understand more about the role of the bolt hole and what it does, please listen to my video about the narcissist's bolt hole. And it's bolt hole, not butt hole, you perverts. That will help you understand more about the mentality. It also fits, of course, with something that we'll be dealing with later, about Vladimir Putin's increased self-isolation. And what does that actually mean with regard to the way that he views and interacts with the world? This description, however, of the Valdai Dacha provides us with yet more indicators with regard to his behaviour, so that the various ticks as to the determining criteria are building up more and more. In part 5, we will be turning to the issue of his interpersonal relationships to provide us with further insight with regard to Vladimir Putin and what he is.